according to everyone who was there, according to medical records of people who were there, according to, like, they blocked off, the military came in, cordoned off the area, they recovered a crashed UFO.
In an explosive revelation that shatters the boundaries of what we thought we knew, Joe Rogan and Annie Jacobsen dive deep into the enigmatic and chilling truths behind the Roswell UFO incident.
And there was living creatures that people came in contact with, and one of them was this tiny little thing that this guy carried, and he carried it to wherever they were going to examine it.
This discussion peels back layers of secrecy, government cover-ups, and unearthly mysteries that have been tightly sealed for decades. Stay tuned till the end, because what you're about to hear is truly mind-blowing.
You know, that they
Let me stop you right there, because when you say that craft, what you mean is the supposed UFO wreckage that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
Annie Jacobsen is a journalist and author who has written several books on topics related to national security, espionage, and secret history. She is best known for her investigations of the U.S. government's involvement in some of the most controversial and mysterious events and phenomena of the 20th and 21st centuries. Her books have been praised for their meticulous research, compelling storytelling, and revealing insights into the hidden aspects of American power and politics. But what exactly happened in Roswell, and what has Jacobsen revealed about it? The Roswell incident is one of the most famous and controversial UFO cases in history. It all started when a rancher named W.W. Brazel found some strange debris on his land in New Mexico in the summer of 1947. Brazel was a hard-working man who owned a large sheep ranch near Corona, about 75 miles north of Roswell. He had been away from his ranch for a few days, and when he returned on June 14th, he noticed something unusual. He saw a large area of bright wreckage scattered across a field. He described the debris as tinfoil, rubber, tape, and thin wooden beams. He also said there were some metal pieces that looked like I-beams, with writing along the edge of them. He was puzzled by the material, which he thought might have come from a plane or a weather balloon. He decided to collect some of the debris and store it in his shed. Brazel did not report his discovery right away. He was busy with his ranch duties, and he did not think it was very important. He also did not want to get involved with the authorities, whom he distrusted. He later said, "I didn't know what it was, and I didn't care. I just wanted to get it off my land." However, he did mention the debris to some of his neighbors and friends, who became curious and visited the site. They also speculated about the origin of the material, and some suggested it might be from a flying saucer. The rumors reached the ears of Sheriff George Wilcox of Roswell, who contacted the Roswell Army Airfield, or RAAF, on July 6th. The RAAF sent Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer, and Captain Sheridan Cavett, a counterintelligence agent, to investigate. They met with Brazel at his ranch, and he showed them the debris he had collected. Marcel was impressed by the material, which he said was not anything from this Earth. He believed it was from an extraterrestrial spacecraft, and he took some of the debris with him to his home. Cavett, on the other hand, was skeptical and thought it was from a weather balloon. The next day, July 7th, Brazel accompanied Marcel and Cavett to the crash site, where they found more debris. They spent several hours collecting and loading the material into their vehicles. They also searched for any signs of bodies or engines, but they did not find any. Brazel later said, "There was nothing there but that stuff. No people, no animals, no nothing." He also said he was not allowed to talk to anyone about what he saw, and he was escorted by the military to Roswell. On July 8th, the RAAF issued a press release that shocked the world. It stated that they had recovered a flying disc from a ranch near Roswell and that they had the disc in their possession. The news made headlines across the globe and sparked a frenzy of speculation and excitement. People wondered if the disc was from another planet, and if it had any connection to the recent wave of UFO sightings. The RAF also displayed some of the debris to the public and invited reporters to take pictures. However, the excitement was short-lived. The same day, the RAF retracted their statement and said that the disc was actually a weather balloon. They claimed that the debris was from a top-secret project called Mogul, which involved high-altitude balloons carrying devices to detect Soviet atomic tests. They also said that Marcel had made a mistake in identifying the material, and that he had been fooled by ordinary objects. They showed more pictures of Marcel posing with the supposed weather balloon debris and said that the case was closed. Brazel was also pressured to change his story. He was interviewed by the Roswell Daily Record and he said that he had found a weather balloon, not a flying disc. He also said that he was sorry he had told the military about it and that he wished he had never seen the debris. He said, "I don't know what it was, but I'm sure it wasn't anything from outer space." But he also said that he was paid $3,000 by the military to keep quiet, and that he was threatened with jail if he talked to anyone else. Brazel's story was largely forgotten for the next 30 years, until UFO researchers revived the interest in the Roswell incident. They interviewed Brazel's family and friends, who said that he had been coerced and intimidated by the military, and that he had never believed the weather balloon explanation. They also interviewed Marcel, who maintained that the debris was from an alien craft and that the weather balloon story was a cover-up. They also claimed that there were other witnesses who saw bodies and a second crash site, and that the military had hidden the evidence and silenced the witnesses.
In my book, I interview a man who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission, who tells a different story. Tells the story of receiving that craft at Area 51.
In her book, Jacobsen interviewed a former engineer who worked at Area 51 in the 1950s and who revealed to her the true origin of the Roswell incident, the alleged crash of a UFO in New Mexico in 1947. Area 51 is one of the most mysterious and secretive places on Earth. Located in the Nevada desert, this military base has been the subject of countless conspiracy theories and speculations for decades. What is really happening behind the fences and signs that warn trespassers to stay away? Some experts believe that Area 51 is where the U.S. government hides and studies alien spacecraft and extraterrestrial beings. It is also allegedly where the government has made contact with aliens and has agreements with them to exchange technology and information. Others think that Area 51 is where the government develops and tests advanced weapons and aircraft, such as stealth bombers, spy planes, and drones. The argument is that the base is a perfect location for experimenting with new and exotic technologies, such as anti-gravity, laser beams, and cloaking devices. They also point out that the base has been involved in many historical events, such as the U-2 spy plane flights over the Soviet Union, the development of the SR-71 Blackbird, and the testing of the F-117 Nighthawk. Some even speculate that Area 51 is where the government conducts mind control, time travel, and genetic engineering experiments. They allege that the base is a hub for paranormal and supernatural activities, such as telepathy, remote viewing, and astral projection. They also claim that the base is connected to other secret facilities around the world, such as the Montauk Project, the Dulce Base, and the Pine Gap. According to Jacobsen, the Roswell incident was not an alien encounter, but a Soviet spy operation, designed by Nazi engineers and piloted by surgically altered children, as part of a psychological warfare campaign by Stalin to cause panic and hysteria in the U.S. population. She bases her theory on the following arguments. The Soviet Union was behind the development of flying saucer technology, based on the work of the Horten brothers, Nazi engineers who designed stealthy flying wing aircraft during World War II. The Soviets captured some of these engineers and their prototypes after the war and continued to improve them, creating disc-shaped flying machines that could evade radar detection and fly at high speeds and altitudes. Jacobsen explains that Stalin was inspired by the Orson Welles radio broadcast of War of the Worlds in 1938, which caused mass hysteria among some listeners who believed that aliens were invading the Earth. He wanted to replicate this effect in the U.S. as a way of undermining the American public's confidence and morale, and to distract them from the real threat of the Soviet atomic bomb, which was being developed at the time. Stalin enlisted the help of Josef Mengele, the infamous Nazi doctor who performed horrific experiments on human subjects, especially twins, at Auschwitz. Mengele had escaped to Argentina after the war, but was secretly working for the Soviets, who offered him protection and resources. Mengele was tasked with creating a crew of child-size aviators who who would look like aliens by using genetic manipulation, hormone injections, and surgical alterations. These children were either kidnapped from Eastern Europe or taken from Mengele's own experiments. The Soviets launched a flying saucer, remotely piloted by a mothership from a base near Alaska, where they had established a presence after the war. The flying saucer was equipped with a radio transmitter that emitted signals in Russian, German, and English to confuse the American radar operators. The saucer flew over the U.S. airspace and crashed near Roswell, New Mexico, where it was recovered by the U.S. military. The military found the wreckage of the saucer and the bodies of the child pilots, who were grotesquely deformed and mutilated. The military initially reported that they had captured a flying disc, but later retracted the statement and claimed that it was a weather balloon. The military transported the saucer and the bodies to Area 51, where they were studied by a team of engineers, including Jacobsen's source. The engineers were shocked and horrified by what they saw, and wondered if they were dealing with aliens or humans. They concluded that they were human, but genetically and surgically modified to look like aliens. They also discovered that the saucer was made of earthly materials and technology, but advanced and sophisticated. They realized that they had been the victims of a Soviet hoax, intended to scare and deceive them. According to Jacobsen, the military kept the Roswell incident a secret, fearing that the public would panic or lose faith in the government if they learned the truth. They also wanted to reverse engineer the saucer and the bodies to learn from their technology and biology. They created a cover story of a weather balloon and later of a Project Mogul balloon to explain the Roswell incident. They also spread misinformation and disinformation about aliens and UFOs to divert attention from the real source of the Roswell incident. They used Area 51 as a testing ground for their own flying saucer projects, based on the Soviet prototype, as well as other secret weapons and aircraft. There are, however, other witness reports apart from Jacobsen's source. In fact, one of the most intriguing aspects of the Roswell UFO incident is the alleged testimony of a nurse who reported to have witnessed the autopsy of alien beings at the RAAF. This nurse, whose identity has never been confirmed, was said to be a friend of Glenn Dennis, a local mortician who worked at the Ballard Funeral Home. Dennis, who passed away in 2015, was one of the founders of the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, and a prominent figure in the UFO community. He claimed that he had several encounters with the military and the nurse that convinced him that something extraordinary had happened at Roswell. According to Dennis, his involvement in the Roswell incident began when he received a phone call from the RAF mortuary officer, who asked him about the availability of child-sized caskets and the best way to preserve bodies that had been exposed to the elements. Dennis thought this was a strange request, but he did not suspect anything unusual until he drove to the base later that day to deliver some embalming fluid. There, he said, he was stopped by a military policeman who told him that he was not allowed to enter the base hospital. Dennis insisted that he had a delivery to make and managed to get inside the hospital, where he saw several armed guards and a lot of commotion. He also claimed that he saw a large piece of metal with strange symbols on it, which he later assumed was part of the crashed UFO. As he was walking through the hospital, Dennis said he ran into his friend, the nurse, who looked very pale and frightened. She told him that he had to leave immediately and that she would meet him at the officers' club later. She also whispered to him that she had a terrible experience that morning and that she would tell him everything when they met. Dennis agreed and left the hospital as quickly as he could. That evening, Dennis said, he met the nurse at the officers' club, where she told him a shocking story. She said that she had accidentally walked into an examination room where doctors were bent over the bodies of 3 creatures that were unlike anything she had ever seen. She described them as being about 4 feet tall, with large heads, slanted eyes, thin limbs, and gray skin. She said that they had no ears, noses, or mouths, and that they had 4 fingers on each hand, with no thumbs. She also said that they had no genitals, and that their internal organs were different from humans. She said that she was so terrified by the sight that she fainted, and that when she woke up, she was questioned by a colonel who threatened her with dire consequences if she ever spoke about what she had seen. She also said that she had been ordered to assist in the autopsy of one of the creatures, and that she had taken some notes and drawings of the procedure. Dennis said that he was stunned by the nurse's story, and that he believed her completely. He said that he asked her to give him the notes and drawings, but she refused, saying that they were too dangerous to keep. She also told him that she had been transferred to England and that she would be leaving the next day. She asked him to forget everything she had told him and to never contact her again. Dennis said that he respected her wishes and that he never saw or heard from her again. Dennis said that he kept the nurse's story to himself for many years, until he decided to share it with UFO researchers in the early 1990s. He said that he had given the researchers a phony name for the nurse because he had promised her that he would never reveal it to anyone. He also said that he had deliberately told different stories about what had become of the nurse, such as that she had died in a plane crash, that she had gone to England, or that she had joined a convent. He said that he did this to protect her identity and to confuse the authorities who might be looking for her. Dennis's account of the nurse's testimony has been one of the most fascinating and controversial pieces of evidence for the Roswell UFO incident. Many UFO enthusiasts have accepted it as true and have tried to find the nurse's real name and whereabouts. Some have even claimed to have located her or her relatives, but none of these claims have been verified. Others have dismissed Dennis's account as a hoax, a fabrication, or a delusion. They have pointed out the inconsistencies and contradictions in his story and the lack of any corroborating evidence. They have also questioned his motives and credibility and suggested that he might have been influenced by other sources, such as books, movies, or TV shows about aliens and UFOs. Another intriguing and radical theory about the Roswell incident is that the debris was not from an alien spacecraft, but from a time-traveling device that came from the future. This theory suggests that the device was sent back in time by humans from a distant future, either to observe or alter the course of history. The device malfunctioned and crashed in Roswell, leaving behind some of its components, which were then recovered by the military and hidden from the public. But why would humans from the future want to travel back to 1947? What was so important about that year? There are several possible answers to this question, depending on the motives and goals of the time travelers. Here are some of the most plausible scenarios. The time travelers wanted to witness or prevent the first atomic bomb test, which took place on July 16, 1945, near Alamogordo, New Mexico, about 200 miles from Roswell. The test, codenamed Trinity, marked the dawn of the nuclear age and had profound implications for the future of humanity and the planet. Perhaps the time travelers wanted to see the historic event for themselves, or to stop it from happening and change the course of the Cold War and the arms race. The time travelers wanted to study or influence the development of the UFO phenomenon, which began to gain popularity and attention in the late 1940s. The first widely reported UFO sighting occurred on June 24, 1947, when pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed to see 9 shiny objects flying in formation near Mount Rainier, Washington. His description of the objects as saucer-like gave rise to the term flying saucer. Perhaps the time travelers wanted to learn more about the origin and nature of the UFO phenomenon, or to create it themselves by planting the device in Roswell and sparking the public's imagination and curiosity. The time travelers wanted to explore or alter the fate of the Roswell witnesses, who were involved in the discovery, recovery, and investigation of the debris. Some of the witnesses, such as Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who first examined the debris, and Walter Haut, the public information officer who issued the press release, later claimed that the debris was of extraterrestrial origin, and that they were pressured by the military to keep quiet. Perhaps the time travelers wanted to meet or communicate with these witnesses, or to protect or expose them from the military's interference and intimidation. Of course, these are just some of the possible reasons why humans from the future would want to travel back to 1947 and leave behind a time-traveling device in Roswell. There may be other, more mysterious and complex reasons that we cannot comprehend or imagine. The theory of the Roswell time travel device is fascinating and provocative, but it also raises many questions and challenges. How did the time travelers manage to create and operate such a device? How did they choose their destination and avoid paradoxes and inconsistencies? How did they deal with the ethical and moral implications of their actions? And most importantly, did they succeed or fail in their mission? But what if there is another explanation for the Roswell incident? One that is more plausible than extraterrestrials, but still fascinating and surprising. What if the debris was from a Japanese balloon bomb that was launched during World War II and drifted over the US for years before landing in New Mexico? This is a theory proposed by Robert Hastings, a UFO researcher and author of the book UFOs and Nukes: Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapons Sites. Hastings says that he interviewed a former US Navy intelligence officer who told him that he had seen a classified report in 1949 that linked the Roswell incident to a Japanese balloon bomb. Japanese balloon bombs, also known as fire balloons or fugo, were a type of weapon developed by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. They consisted of large hydrogen-filled balloons that carried incendiary or explosive devices. The balloons were designed to exploit the jet stream, a high-altitude wind that blows from west to east across the Pacific Ocean. The Japanese hoped that the balloons would reach the U.S. mainland and cause fires, panic, and damage. The Japanese launched about 9,300 balloon bombs from November 1944 to April 1945, mostly from the east coast of Japan. However, only about 300 of them are known to have reached North America, and most of them landed in sparsely populated areas or were shot down by fighter planes. The only fatalities caused by the balloon bombs were 6 people in Oregon who were killed by an explosion when they found a balloon in the woods. The U.S. government was aware of the balloon bomb threat and tried to keep it secret from the public to avoid giving the Japanese any feedback on their effectiveness. The government also launched a countermeasure program called Operation Firefly to track and intercept the balloons. The program involved radar stations, aircraft patrols, and ground observers. But what if some of the balloon bombs escaped detection and remained aloft for much longer than expected? What if some of them drifted over the U.S. for years, until they finally lost altitude and fell to the ground? And what if one of them landed near Roswell in 1947 and was mistaken for a flying saucer by the local rancher and the military? This is the theory that Hastings proposes, based on the testimony of his anonymous source. According to Hastings, the source said that he had seen a report that described the Roswell debris as being consistent with a Japanese balloon bomb, including tinfoil, rubber, tape, and wooden sticks. The report also stated that the balloon bomb had a radio transmitter that was still functioning, and that it had sent a signal to Japan when it crashed. The report speculated that the Japanese had used the balloon bombs as a reconnaissance tool to monitor the U.S. nuclear activities. Hastings claims that the report was classified and never made public because it would have embarrassed the U.S. government and the military, who had failed to detect and destroy the balloon bomb. He also claims that the report was suppressed by the CIA, who wanted to use the Roswell incident as a cover story for their own secret projects involving UFOs and aliens. Hastings admits that his theory is based on a single source, who could not provide any documentary evidence to support his claims. He also acknowledges that there are many problems and inconsistencies with his theory, such as the lack of any physical evidence of a balloon bomb at the Roswell crash site, the implausibility of a balloon bomb surviving for 2 years in the jet stream, and the contradiction with other eyewitness accounts of the Roswell incident. However, Hastings argues that his theory is more credible than the alien spacecraft theory, which he considers to be based on fabricated or distorted evidence, such as fake documents, hoaxed photographs, and unreliable witnesses. He also argues that his theory is more interesting and intriguing than the official weather balloon theory, which he considers to be boring and mundane.